So in the next set of videos I'm going to show you how to create a camera and also play around with Matinee. And I'm also going to show you how you can create high-res screenshots and render out video from Matinee. So let's get started. So to begin with, we need to find out where the cameras are placed. Let me just get rid of that one. Get rid of that. There we go. So if we want to place a camera in scene, we can do, and where we can find it is under classes here. So if I type in camera, I can pull a camera in and that will create a new camera for me. Now it has the same movements as anything else in the editor. So for example, if we wanted to like put it on a tilt like this and move it around, we can do. So we can rotate it in a very very awkward movement there, and we can also change it that way. We can rotate it that way. We can also rotate it up and down. So I'm just going to place this as best as I want. Now on a camera, just like post-processing volume, you can change the settings of it just like a real camera. So we can change the field of view. So say for example we wanted a wider field of view, or if we wanted it zoomed in a little bit, we can do. So 90. We can also change the aspect ratio as well. So I'm going to just change this to 16:9 HD TV, so 1920 by 1080. And I'm also going to change some of these post-processing values. So we can actually add certain things on this. Now, global illumination I tend to keep in the post-processing volume. And I tend to use depth of field on the camera, because you can easily set it up a lot easier. Scale. So I can change this. So you can play around with this until you get what you want. And what I tend to do then is come in and clean up these values. So you can also change other stuff as well. So you can have bloom in here. You can change the color grading of it as well. Film, so you can add a tint to your camera if you wanted to. Have a bit of a party if you wanted as well. And yeah, so there's lots of settings in here that you can play around with to get the best render for you. I've just shown you depth of field. I'm not going to show you anything else. You can have a play around yourself with this. So that's a camera. So one of the first things you need to do is, say you wanted to take a render of this, you would need to actually go into the blueprints and set this up as a render. So if you open level blueprints, now I think I've already done this, yeah. So at the moment this is just a cutscene, and I'll move on to that in a minute. What we're going to need to do is we're going to create one of these. So if so you can only have one of these in blueprints. So I'm just going to press Alt to cancel this link. I'm just going to move it down here a minute. So to begin with, what we need to do is we need to actually create a target view blend. So if we go where is it now? Bear with me. So we're going to need this event begin on play, and we're also going to need to attach it to a set. Sorry, I right click anywhere here and that brings up this menu. There we go. So I untick context sensitivity and it brings it up. So I can plug that in there. Now the target is going to be the player controller, because we need to disable the player controller if you're using the first person example. So get player controller and plug that into target. Now that's not the one I want, sorry. Let's go back into, turn that back on. So get player controller. There we go, that's the one I want. And then we also want the camera act as well, because that's going to be the new target. So if I just move this to one side, make sure that's selected, and go right click, create reference. That's created a reference to that object, and that's how you do with anything in this. That's how you create it. So if I compile now, this means it's all ready to play. And if I press C, I can comment this and say this is camera render 1. Close that down. So if I press play now, obviously the depth of field's a little bit out on it, so we'd have to play around with that. But we can actually render this now. So if I just stop this and go new editor window, and if I make this, do that again. Okay, so what I can do is I can go hit the key that's just above tab and just below escape, and call this, and type in high res. It's a console command key, and go high res. You can see at the top there's already a thing for it. Space 2. What that does is it creates a high resolution screenshot, which we can then edit in Photoshop. Now I think if we open up Photoshop, go to image size, slightly higher than what we need it to be, which is good. So I can then change this to, well, you can see that it's made it a bit square. So if I create a new image, grab this, so Control A, Control C, I can then and there you go. So that's now 1920 by 1080. I haven't squished it, I haven't squashed it. I tend to type in 4, so high res screenshot 4, because that gives me a lot higher resolution to work with. And then you can save this, obviously making sure that your final render's got textures and that sort of stuff. It'll look a bit more impressive. So if I close that down, now another thing what we can do is, so if I stop this and I go back into blueprints, I'm just going to cancel that because I don't need that anymore, and I'm going to move this back up here. Just close this down a minute. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually make this camera move. So I'm just going to turn off depth of field. Don't want it on. Okay. And I'm going to put that camera there. So starting camera here. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually animate this camera to actually move around, and then I'm going to animate it to hand off to another camera that's going to go upwards. So the way we do that is using something called Matinee. Now there is a new thing called Sequencer. I haven't used it yet, and I'm going to use it over Christmas break to see what it's all about. But I'm just going to use Matinee to begin with. Now, this might look quite confusing, but it's not. You get your head around it. If you use After Effects or Premiere Pro or anything like that, you'll understand it. Now, making sure you've got the camera selected, you can go right click anywhere here, and what that does is allows you to add new groups. So if, for example, if you had an animation, say you wanted this Unreal guy to move, he had some animations in the engine, you could actually key it up in here and actually trigger it using Matinee. But we're going to do the camera, so click camera and call this pan front. So pan front, because it's going to pan at the front of the building. And you can see that it's already giving you a key frame. This is the starting position of the camera, and it's under the movement track. So you have so you have field of view angle and movement tracks that you can edit on this. And if you slide the scroller along here, left click, you can select the time period. Also up here, there's something called snap. Now I tend to use snap because it allows me to snap to the seconds, and if you use the wheel mouse, you can scroll in and out of here. So I'm just going to move that slider to there and hit enter. Now, if I just move that to the one side a minute, and then pull the camera, you can see that it's actually adjusted the key, the camera position along this kind of spline. So if I press play, select the camera here and hit play. See, we get a nice thing. Now we can change the interpolation. There, that was a mouthful. Sorry about that. If you right click, you can go between different modes. Now sometimes linear works better, especially if you're rotating around an object. Linear is the best thing to do. If you're animating a fan, for example, linear would be what you'd use for it. But we'll keep it auto at the moment. Now, we can also add other tracks to this as well, like soundtracks and toggle tracks and animation tracks as well. So if we scrub through that, that's fine. And we can loop it as well, so it would loop. And I'm going to create a new camera because I want to hand off this. So let me just go back into my Matinee. Where are you? So I just broke that. So bear with me. Make sure you untick the camera or else you do break it, which I just did. So it's really hard to do this. So let me enter again, pull it. Okay, there we go. So a slight little hiccup. I broke it because I was in the camera and stuff. So make sure you're not in the camera. I'm just going to pull another camera out. I'm going to try and position this as best as I can. So I might need to just minimize this and go into top. And hit F then to just focus it. And I'm just going to put it at the end here. I'm just going to add a slight rotation on it. And let's go back into perspective. So hopefully. Okay. So what I'm going to do with this one is go back into my Matinee. Where are you? There you go. And with it selected, I'm going to create a new camera group. I'm going to call this pan up. And again, I'm just going to hit enter. Making sure I've got this movement selected up. And then I'm just going to so now at the moment, if I play this, so if I play it, you can obviously see that they're both working at the same time, which is not what we want. So we need to move the actual keys. Now to do that, if you hold control, you can move an already keyframed. So if I, and then select that one and hold control and try that again, you can see that that camera there will not hand off until the thing, but we can't see a preview yet because we need to actually put a director group in. So if you right click here and go add new director group, now this is a master group that controls everything that's inside of your Matinee. This allows it to play on play, and it also allows you to edit stuff as well. So I'm just going to make this slightly bigger. And to edit in this, if you make sure it's selected and hit enter, you can start to put whatever you've got in this bottom bit here in here. So pan front first, click OK. And then I'm going to move to about 3 seconds. I'm going to put a pan up, click OK. You see now that this has now got the director, and if I click the camera and hit play, I will put it in looping. Okay, so we've got our Matinee, and that's pretty much Matinee editor. You can do other stuff in it as well. Obviously, you can smooth a lot of this stuff out. And there's also as well something called, so if I maximize it and go movie, you can actually record this movie into image sequence. Now there's a step that we need to do before we do this. So what I need to do is, let me just stop that, because let me come out of the camera and let me stop that Matinee. So I'm just going to close that Matinee down. And if we go back to blueprints and go open level blueprints, you can see I've created that I need to create a cutscene. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this off, and then it's going to give you that menu toggle. No, that's not what I want. I'm going to create a reference. There we go. So I'm going to select my Matinee, and I'm going to create a reference to it. So create a reference to Matinee actor, and then set cinematic mode, and I'm going to click play. So under cinematic, click play. Now I'm just going to delete that one because we don't need it. We can target it itself there. Target. We can tell it not to have any of these, and then we link it down there. So you should have something that looks like this. Now we compile. Now if we press play, there you go. It goes back into game mode. So sometimes we might want it to loop. So we can do by creating a loop, set looping state. Again, just delete that. There you go. So compile. I'm always compiling when I finish doing something, so I can make sure it works. I click play. I didn't do something. And I know exactly what I didn't do. Tick that box there. That's all it was. There you go. And then now we've got it with pin. So we can now render this movie out. So if I go image sequence, frame rate, yeah, that's all right. And I'm going to save it there, yeah. So I'm going to capture the movie. So save selected. Yes. Don't worry if it's lagging a little bit. It's not going to capture that. It's just basically it's capturing those PNGs, so it's rendering each sequence out. Okay, so stop the capture. Okay, so that's how you can use cameras to take videos. Obviously, you'd have to spend a lot more time refining it, but that's how you can do it. So hopefully this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.